guys, welcome to another episode of INTJ and INFE Coffee. I'm quite excited for today's episode entitled How to Offend an FI or TI User. And this is basically based on this theory that I have about how our inner identity is based on our introverted functions, and based on whether you have TI or FI, you would be like offended in different ways, whereas if someone criticizes something that's in the TE or FE domain, it's more like, well, that's just how the world is, or that's how things are, or that's how it goes, and it's less of a personal offense.
Yeah.
Just so you know, this kind of happened because I was looking back on that controversial video we did about telling Kevin that he's an ISTP. See, I didn't think that was mean, but a lot of people in the comments were saying that it was too blunt or mean or offensive or whatever. It's kind of interesting because I didn't find what we said to be mean, but I find a lot of comments saying that we're mean to be mean. I think this is like a TI-FI difference, like what we find to be mean or offensive.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe I should explain that. Okay, so I'm pretty sure like most of the people who thought we were mean were like FE users, especially people who are like the FE has left the room, or like there's no FE in this conversation at all and therefore you guys are being mean or whatever. And it's like, I kind of see that now because, okay, this is a relevant story, but my mom is a FE dominant user, and I just remember, like, all throughout growing up, I get so upset with her because she would tell me how to be, in a sense. Like, she would be like, oh, you should act more friendly towards person A, or you should dress like this because people will like that, or whatever. Just, like, I guess it's value-based choices. It's like, obviously I'm acting a certain way to a person because I value acting that way.
Yeah.
So when she was saying these comments, it was, like, extremely offensive to me. I would get mad at her, like, constantly. And I think that's like a FI way to get mad, because for me, I'm choosing how to be in a value sense. Like, if I'm nice or if I'm not nice, those are all my choices, and it's weird for someone else to tell you. But I think for FE users, that's just how it is. I feel like if you tell an INTP to be nicer to people, they'll be like, oh, okay, how? Like, you know, like, oh, how do I become nicer to people? Or like, you should dress this way is more appropriate. They'll be like, oh, okay, like, let me study what is appropriate. But then, here's the second part of the story. So one day, my mom was like, oh, a cup is 4 ounces, or I forgot if she said 4 ounces or 16 ounces. I was like, no, it's 8 ounces. And she's like, no? I'm like, no, I'm like 100% sure it's 8 ounces. And then she got so mad at me. She was like, I used to be a doctor, like, who do you think you are? So, obviously that's probably like a way too much reaction, but I think it is indicative of what TI finds offensive. Obviously, if you have an internal, logical, or rational framework, it is based on what you think and how you interpret the truth of the world. So kind of in a weird extrapolatory way, when I challenge her beliefs about the cup, it's like challenging her whole like internal worldview and who she is. Like that maybe if that one thing is wrong, the whole inner thing is wrong. So back to Kevin, I realized that that's why people thought it was so offensive, because I really, besides the laughing, but that's just FI people just laugh at stupid random times. But anyway, besides the laughing, I don't think we said anything that was offensive. But I think the core of telling someone that they're wrong about their MBTI type is obviously much bigger than the cup situation, and that could be offensive to a TI user. Whereas for TE users, I think we don't really get offended by something that's wrong. Like if someone's like, no, a cup is this many quantities, I'll Google and be like, oh, okay. Right. But it can be bigger things, even like how I think about the whole world. If someone is like, the earth is flat, I'll be like, oh, interesting, tell me why. You know, it wouldn't be a personal thing. It's more like TE that those are just the facts, and that's why TE is so associated with facts and TI is less associated with facts, I guess.
That's so weird that you actually brought that example up, because I was like talking with an INFJ about like this whole flat earth thing. Okay. And I was like, oh yeah, when I first encountered it, I kind of was like, oh, that's interesting. I want to like see if that's actually true or not. And he was like so shocked by that. He was like, what? Are you serious? You actually believe it? How could you And I was like, no, I just like checked the TE facts, and I was like, okay, wait, flight paths, there are flight paths over Antarctica, or like whatever, like the times make sense, so yeah, the Earth's round, that's it. But I just like, I entertained the possibility I entertained the idea for a second, because I was like, maybe, I don't know. Yeah. I wanted to see if there's a possibility. I had no like, personalized attachment of like, oh, yes, the world is round, this is my truth, how can anyone,
Yeah, but going back to the actual thing, back when everyone thought the earth was flat, you know how like it was a big controversy that someone said the earth was round, but if someone said that to me, it's like, oh, okay. But like, I kind of get how people were so offended by that, because it's literally challenging your entire internal logical framework in a sense. Like any piece of information could trigger that, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess like when I thought about how we take offense differently, like I could sum up the FI side as like we take offense if like our intentions are misconstrued, I think. Because like, so like I guess on the FE side, it's like we're looking kind of, the FE is like seeing kind of the effect or the result of some sort of value-based system, right? And so the FI user might actually like have good intentions, and maybe like it doesn't maybe it doesn't have some sort of external result that is pleasing to like a lot of people or something, right? And then that could kind of make people mad and be like, oh, like why did you do that thing? And the FI user's like, oh, well, I did it for this reason, like you're misinterpreting my actions.
Well, that's kind of, that's so interesting. I think you might be saying that because like you have like FE blind or whatever. I think maybe it's more common for INTJs along with some other types to be misconstrued. I feel like that's probably less of a problem for me. It's probably because you have good FI intentions, but you don't know how to manifest it in like a more FE way. Yeah. So like you're doing it in a TE way, and then that could be misconstrued by a lot of people, so that could be sad. But yeah, like I think for me, maybe my FI is higher, so I have that problem a bit less. But like how I said that what offends TI is like what you think or what the truth or the truth is, or like thinking that there is a truth in the first place, but like challenging what you think and what you believe the truth to be like is offensive. I think with FI it's like what I value. So everything that can be what I value, that's detached from like the rational things that are everything that has to do with what I value, like my preferences, how I conduct myself in a feeling sense. Like, so everything like you're mean, you're silly, you're standing out too much, blah, 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 you should laugh more. Like, all of those things are offensive because they're, like, challenging all of my choices about who I am, what I think to be right. And it's really actually hard for me to imagine why someone can... Like, with internet comments, people can be like, you're mean or whatever, and that's normal. But with my mom, like, she'll be like, you're mean. Like it's like she loves me and she wants me to thrive, I guess, but she'll think nothing of saying like you are mean, you should be kinder or more welcoming to people, and I find that so offensive. And she would be so confused as why I was mad, just like I was so confused why she was mad over the cup thing. And it's just so I wrote that people with FE, it's how can I conduct in a better manner? What should I value? Like, what should I value if you're offended by my values? Like, what is the current value? Like, let me... You don't have to adapt to it because there is TI. Like, you might think the current values don't make sense, but you still at least care what the values are. And then for TE, it's like, how can I get the right information? Or what is the right information? Like, please elucidate me, which is different for... like, I might not like the information. I might still ultimately choose to go my own way based on like FI values, but I still care to know what people think the information is or the truth is.
That's interesting. I guess going back to how like I have higher TE over FI, I think maybe the intention thing is more because I like to actually manifest my FI values externally. So maybe I don't get too offended about if someone, like I think if someone just doesn't like my FI stuff, then I'm like, okay, whatever. Then I guess I just probably won't have you in my life or something. But if I like try my hardest to like make my FI values actually like present in an external way, and then that is misconstrued, then I think, So that's probably is because I do have like TE trying to actually manifest things that align with my FI values.
That's so interesting. That's a J versus P thing, actually.
Yeah.
It's like, because judges tend to think of who they are also as like what they do. To put it really bluntly, it's like a more dynamic thing. So like the TE, well, this is kind of a TE thing. Like the TE has to do a lot with your identity too as a judgment function. It's like the process of what you're manifesting out, that's also part of who you are. But with higher FI people, it's more static because it's like an introverted judgment function. So it's more like attacking who I am, basically.
Right. Okay, I had like a little random anecdote that I thought fit well with this. So And it's kind of interesting. This doesn't really go much into like being hurt necessarily, but maybe more misunderstood, which is kind of interesting because I wanted to like actually someone emailed us about like having a conversation on how we feel misunderstood as FI users, right? And you were like, oh, I don't really feel that misunderstood actually.
Yeah, that should be like a whole different video because so many people think that they are automatically NFs because of the whole like, oh, I'm so misunderstood stereotype, but actually I don't really feel that misunderstood.
Yeah. And sometimes like this was just like a little random thing that a TI, like I'm pretty sure this person was INTP, said to me, and it just like made me feel so misunderstood, but it was such like an innocuous thing that I almost like was like, wow, what's wrong with me? Like I reacted so, like not externally reacted, I think externally I was just like, okay, yeah. So I was just like, I just like met this person for the first time and we were like talking about our music preferences and I was like, oh yeah, I think I generally liked kind of like maybe alternative rock was kind of one of the genres that I like, and I was listening to some bands, and then so one of the bands, I guess, is like a more popular band, I guess you could say, and then he was like, oh yeah, well if you like alternative rock, that makes sense that you would like that band. Such like a TI way to like explain it, and it's so weird, but like that like crushed my soul. I was like, it was like, I don't know, just like I guess I see my preferences as like just a product of me, and like maybe TI could see people's preferences as like I can see what he says like makes sense. It's like, yeah, if you generally like this genre of music and this is a really popular band within said genre, then like you have a higher probability of liking that band, right? Like that's a TI model that makes sense, but that kind of, it was like he reduced my being to like a statistic, and I was like,
see, that's just the whole thing. Like, FI people want to know that their values are who they are.
Yeah.
But TI people are thinking that the way they make sense of the world is who they are. So if you're like, no, it doesn't make sense that I like this, I just happen to like this, then you're challenging his whole way of determining who he is by like making sense of the external world, I guess, internally.
Yeah. And that's interesting because I kind of like, I saw that immediately. I was like, oh yeah, that's a very TI way to say it. And I kind of was just like, oh, okay, yeah. But internally I was like, oh, I don't know why. It just like, I don't know, it killed me for some reason. I was like, oh, you don't see who I am. So I guess that was like a way of like feeling misunderstood. But yeah, I think when it's like the intentions thing happens to me, like when someone misconstrues my intentions, then I tend to feel hurt, I guess, because then it's like, oh, do you just assume that I'm like a bad person who like wants to do negative things, I guess? Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. It might be like an NE thing too, because sometimes people misconstrue my intentions, but I immediately see how they came to that conclusion with NE, and it's like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, I see how he came to that conclusion too, but I don't know, it's still, I still like had such a strong emotional reaction to that.
The other note that I had, I find that lower FI and TI people are more likely to get freaked out about these things, because the higher FI TI people, they've been using that function like all their lives, so maybe like a baby INFP INTP were like, ah!
Right.
But yeah, mid-age people, they've been using their dominant function for so long that like what I found offensive, like if someone is like, you are being mean, I immediately, like my FI knows kind of how to handle that and where to place that comment.
Right.
But for the lower FI people, like I know this INTJ who I was joking around and be like, haha, you're so mean. And then he was like, what? Do you think that I am a mean person? Like, do you? And I had to explain that, no, it's just silly. Also like I find that the TI dominants are quite calm when people are saying you're wrong. Like actually Kevin was quite calm. Right. By the way, he like wants to do more interactions. He was pretty calm about the whole thing, but like people with lower TI, they use it less, so it's like you said, like the lower functions are more black and white. So with my mom in the cup, it's like, whoa, like everything changes now, because for a low TI, it's more like a black and white, like am I right about everything or am I wrong about everything? But like an ITP usually would just explain like his or her position in greater detail.
Yeah. So like, I don't know if I've ever said this, but yeah, my mom is also like ESFJ, and so there was, I think, a point when it was like, I guess it was like a decision pertaining to my life, but I guess she was kind of like, I don't know. She wanted to have a say in that, and so at first it was like there was something and we were like, okay, yeah, I think this like makes sense, so let me like proceed this way. But then I guess I went through life and maybe through like my experiences, and like I guess I saw some TE proof of like, okay, no, this no longer is the right decision for me, and I like changed that. But then I think that like upset her so much that like...
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, that she was like, but we decided before that this makes sense. And I was like, well, but I don't know, now I've gone through life more, and now I don't think it makes sense anymore. And she was just like always going back to like, wait, but this TI framework, I think, you know, like...
Yeah,
like,
okay, I've had that experience too, like about what I want out of life. Sometimes when it misaligns with like a high FE user, they question their own TI or whatever, or think I'm questioning their TI, right. But it's just like a FI thing that I like. They're like, no, it doesn't make sense why you're like, why would you like that? It's like, it has nothing to do with, yeah, well, you know, it makes sense because of the collective values. Right. It's like, it's hard to disentangle from that, but I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with your TI being wrong or going against the FE grain or anything. It's just, it just happens to be something I want to do with my life.
Yeah. But it's true that I think, like, I guess the judges in this sense would be the more reactive because we would have the lower either FI or TI.
I guess so,
and I think if I talk to a higher TI user about that same thing, they might just be like, okay, that's like part of my TI framework that other people have different opinions, and that makes sense, right?
Yeah, more complex.
So let us know in the comments what you guys think, and if like the pattern is true, do you think that both are you reactive in an FI or TI way? Does that fit with you? And do you think that higher FI-TI users are a little bit less reactive, and maybe the lower FI-TI users are a little bit more reactive in that sense? Let us know what your experience, how that fits with that. And we'll see you next time.